Jacob's story is an epic journey of faith, deception, and redemption, a tale that echoes through the ages. In a world where cunning often triumphs over integrity, his life forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature and God's divine plan. Have you ever wondered how God can use flawed, imperfect people to fulfill his purposes? Get ready for a narrative that will challenge your understanding of justice and mercy as we uncover the shocking origins of a chosen nation. In Genesis 25 verse 21, we meet a couple in deep distress, Isaac and Rebekah. For 20 painful years, they had tried to conceive, but Rebekah remained barren. In ancient times, childlessness was seen as a curse, a shameful burden no woman wanted to bear. The weight of this disappointment must have been suffocating, especially knowing that God had promised Isaac's father, Abraham, that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars. Desperate, Isaac cried out to the Lord on behalf of his wife. And then, the miracle happened. Rebekah conceived. But her joy was short-lived. Something was wrong. Her pregnancy was far from normal. Violent struggles raged inside her womb, as if a battle was already taking place. Alarmed, she went to inquire of the Lord, and his answer shook her to the core. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Genesis 25 verse 23. This was a shocking divine prophecy. The natural order of things would be overturned. The firstborn, who was traditionally meant to lead, would be subservient to his younger brother. The conflict in her womb was not just a sibling rivalry. It was the beginning of a generational war. When the time came, Rebekah gave birth to twin boys, but their differences were immediately apparent. The firstborn emerged covered in red hair, his body like a wild animal's coat. They named him Esau, meaning hairy. He would grow to be a rough, impulsive hunter, a man of raw strength and action. But then came his brother, and what he did at birth was nothing short of prophetic. The newborn clutched onto Esau's heel, as if refusing to let his brother get ahead of him. His parents named him Jacob, meaning heel grabber, a name that would later come to symbolize his cunning and determination. Even at birth, Jacob was a fighter, one who would do whatever it took to get ahead. Their father, Isaac, was 60 years old when the twins were born. As the boys grew, their differences became even more pronounced. Esau was a wild, rugged hunter, a man of the field, fearless and impulsive. Jacob was quiet and thoughtful, preferring to stay among the tents, observing, learning, and waiting for the right moment to strike. Their personalities created a rift in the family. Isaac, who had a deep love for the taste of wild game, favored Esau. But Rebekah, she loved Jacob. This parental favoritism planted the seeds of discord that would later erupt into betrayal and deception, a powerful lesson about the dangers of unequal love in a family. One fateful day, Esau came in from the fields, exhausted and starving. The smell of Jacob's steaming pot of stew filled the air, rich and tempting. "Quick! Let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished," Esau demanded, his hunger blinding him. Jacob, ever the strategist, saw an opportunity. His response was cold and calculated. "First, sell me your birthright." Esau scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Look, I'm about to die. What good is a birthright to me?" Jacob wasn't satisfied. "Swear to me first." Without hesitation, Esau swore an oath, selling his birthright for a simple meal. He devoured the lentil stew and bread, wiped his mouth, and left, completely unaware of the gravity of what he had just done. The birthright was more than just an inheritance. It was a spiritual privilege, a divine blessing passed down from Abraham. By trading it for temporary satisfaction, Esau despised his birthright, proving he was unworthy of it. Jacob, on the other hand, understood the true value of the blessing, and he was willing to do whatever it took to secure it. Years passed, and Isaac grew old and blind. Feeling his time was near, he called for Esau and said, "My son." "Yes, father," Esau answered. "I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Take your bow and arrows, go out to the field, and hunt game for me. Prepare my favorite meal, so that I may bless you before I die." But Rebekah overheard, and she had no intention of letting Isaac bless Esau. She devised a plan. She told Jacob, your father is about to give Esau his blessing. But we will act fast. Bring me 2 young goats, and I will prepare a meal just the way your father loves it. Then you will take it to him, and he will bless you instead of Esau." Jacob hesitated. "But Esau is hairy, and I am smooth-skinned.
What if my father touches me?
He will know I am deceiving him, and I will bring a curse upon myself."
Rebekah was resolute. "Let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I say." Jacob obeyed.
Rebekah covered his arms and neck with goat skins, making him feel as hairy as Esau. She dressed him in Esau's best clothes and handed him the meal. With his heart pounding, Jacob entered his father's tent. "My father!"
Isaac, frail and blind, stirred. "Who are you, my son?"
Jacob took a deep breath. "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you asked."
"Eat, so you may bless me." Isaac hesitated.
Something felt off.
"Come closer, so I may touch you." Jacob stepped forward.
His father reached out and felt the hairy goat skins on his arms. Isaac frowned.
"The voice is Jacob's,
but the hands are Esau's." Yet, he believed the deception. He ate the meal, blessed Jacob, and unknowingly sealed his fate.
Esau's blessing was gone. Forever.
And when he returned and realized what had happened, rage filled his heart. Jacob had stolen everything.
And Esau wanted revenge.
Esau stormed into his father's tent, carrying the fresh meat he had hunted. His clothes were drenched in sweat, his breath heavy from the excitement of receiving the long-awaited blessing. But when he saw Isaac sitting there, looking strangely unsettled, his heart pounded with unease. "Father, sit up and eat the game I have prepared, so you may bless me."
Isaac froze.
His frail body trembled. His blind eyes widened in horror as he realized the unthinkable.
Who are you?"
he asked in a shaky voice. Esau felt a chill run down his spine. His father's tone was not one of joy, but dread. "I am Esau, your firstborn. I did as you asked." A terrifying silence fell over the room.
Then Isaac let out a loud, mournful cry.
"Who, then, was it that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him. And indeed, he will be blessed."
Esau's heart shattered.
He staggered backward, his whole body trembling. A raw, animalistic wail escaped his lips, a cry of betrayal that shook the entire household.
"No."
"Father, bless me too. Bless me." But Isaac could only shake his head in anguish. "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing."
Esau's face twisted in fury.
He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. His brother had robbed him, again. Isn't he rightly named Jacob? Esau spat. "He has deceived me twice. First, he took my birthright, and now he has stolen my blessing."
"Have you no blessing left for me?" Isaac sighed heavily.
"I have made him lord over you. I have given him all his brothers as servants."
"What else can I give you, my son?"
Esau fell to his knees, his chest heaving with sobs. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. His fate had been sealed.
"Father, please.
Even just one blessing for me." Isaac placed a trembling hand on his son's head and spoke solemnly. "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness,
away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless,
you will throw his yoke from your neck." It was not the blessing Esau had hoped for. It was a prophecy of hardship,
a prophecy of servitude.
Esau left his father's tent with rage burning in his veins. His breath was ragged, his vision blurred with fury.
"The days of mourning for my father will soon come, and then I will kill my brother Jacob."
The hatred in his heart was deep, dark, and consuming. Jacob would not live to enjoy his stolen blessing. But Rebekah overheard Esau's plans.
Panic gripped her.
She had pushed Jacob into this deception, but now his life was in danger. She rushed to Jacob, her voice urgent.
Your brother is plotting to kill you.
You must leave, immediately.
Go to my brother Laban in Haran.
Stay with him until Esau's fury subsides. Jacob's heart pounded. He knew Esau well. His brother was a man of action, and his threats were deadly serious. He had no choice. He had to flee. But before he left, Rebekah approached Isaac, speaking in a softer tone. I cannot bear the thought of Jacob marrying a Canaanite woman, as Esau did. Please, send him to my family in Haran to find a wife. Isaac, still weak from the earlier ordeal, nodded. He called Jacob and blessed him once more, this time knowingly. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you the blessing of Abraham, to you and your descendants, so that you may take possession of the land God gave to your grandfather. Jacob had tricked his father to receive a stolen blessing. Now, he received a willing blessing, one that confirmed his destiny. But he would pay a heavy price. Jacob's journey was just beginning.
A fugitive's dream, the ladder to heaven.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jacob fled into the wilderness, leaving behind everything he had ever known. The night was cold, and he had no shelter. A stone was his only pillow. Alone. Afraid. A fugitive. But as he drifted into a restless sleep, he had a vision. A ladder stretched from earth to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending upon it. Above the ladder, the Lord himself stood.
I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac.
I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your offspring will be as numerous as the dust of the earth.
I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go.
And I will bring you back to this land.
I will not leave you until I have done what I promised.
Jacob awoke with a start, his heart racing. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He looked at the stone he had used as a pillow and set it up as a pillar, pouring oil over it. This place shall be called Bethel, house of God. And there, he made a vow. If God will be with me and provide for me, then the Lord will be my God. And of all that he gives me, I will give 1/10 back to him. Jacob, the deceiver, the fugitive, had just encountered the living God. He had left his home in fear, but now he walked with a promise. His journey was far from over. There were still years of struggle ahead. The deceiver would soon be deceived. The trickster would be tricked. And Jacob's greatest battle was yet to come. Jacob continued his journey toward Haran, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He had left behind a furious brother, a grieving father, and a mother who had orchestrated his escape. He had a divine promise, but no clear path ahead. Then, in the distance, he saw a well. It was surrounded by shepherds waiting to water their flocks, but a large stone covered the mouth of the well. As Jacob approached, he noticed a young woman leading a flock of sheep. She was beautiful. Her eyes were bright, her movements graceful, and when she smiled, Jacob felt something stirred deep within him. "Who is that?" he asked the nearby shepherds. One of them replied, "That is Rachel, daughter of Laban." Jacob's heart leaped. This was his cousin, the daughter of his mother's brother. Without hesitation, he rolled away the heavy stone from the well, an act of strength that startled the onlookers. Then, he drew water for Rachel's sheep, his hands moving with excitement. When Rachel came closer, Jacob could no longer contain himself. He wept. He embraced her and said, "I am Jacob, son of Rebekah, your father's sister."
Rachel's eyes widened.
She turned and ran home to tell her father. Laban welcomed Jacob with open arms.
"You are my own flesh and blood,"
he declared. For a month, Jacob worked for his uncle, proving himself to be a hard-working and capable man. But as time passed, Laban approached him with a serious question. "You should not work for me for nothing, just because you are my relative. Tell me, what should your wages be?" Jacob's heart was already set. "I will work for you 7 years in exchange for Rachel, your younger daughter." Laban stroked his beard and smiled. "It is better I give her to you than to another man. Stay and work for me." And so, Jacob labored 7 long years for the woman he loved. But to him, it felt like only a few days, because of his deep love for Rachel. At last, the time came for Jacob to claim his bride. A grand feast was prepared, and Jacob's heart pounded with excitement. Tonight, Rachel would be his wife. As the sun set and the celebrations continued, Rachel, or so he thought, was led into his tent, veiled and silent.
In the darkness, Jacob embraced her.
In the darkness, he whispered his love. In the darkness, he did not see the switch.
Morning came.
The golden light of dawn seeped through the tent. Jacob stirred and turned toward his beloved. But it was not Rachel. It was Leah. Jacob bolted upright, his breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled as he pulled back the veil. Leah's eyes met his, a mixture of sadness, fear, and silent acceptance. Jacob staggered out of the tent, rage boiling within him. He stormed into Laban's house.
"What have you done to me?"
he demanded. "I served you 7 years for Rachel. Why have you deceived me?"
Laban smirked, unfazed by Jacob's fury.
"It is not our custom to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older. Then why didn't you tell me this 7 years ago? Finish Leah's bridal week, and I will give you Rachel too, if you work another 7 years." Jacob clenched his fists. He had been deceived, just as he had deceived his own father. The irony burned in his soul. But Jacob had no choice. He finished Leah's bridal week and married Rachel as well, but the price was another 7 years of servitude. Jacob now had 2 wives, but his love belonged only to Rachel. Leah, though she was the first wife, felt unloved. God saw her sorrow and blessed her with children, while Rachel remained barren.
Leah bore Jacob 4 sons.
Reuben, meaning the Lord has seen my misery. Simeon, meaning the Lord has heard.
Levi, meaning attached. Judah, meaning praise.
Each time, she hoped Jacob would love her more. But his heart remained with Rachel. Rachel, seeing her sister blessed with children while she remained childless, became consumed with jealousy.
"Give me children, or I will die,"
she cried to Jacob. Jacob sighed, exasperated. "Am I in the place of God, who has kept you from having children?" Desperate, Rachel gave Jacob her maidservant Bilhah as a surrogate. Through Bilhah, Jacob had 2 more sons. Dan, meaning he has vindicated me. Naphtali, meaning I have wrestled and prevailed. Leah, not to be outdone, gave Jacob her maidservant Zilpah, who bore him 2 sons as well.
Gad, meaning good fortune. Asher, meaning happy.
The household was now a battlefield.
A war of wives.
A struggle for affection. And Jacob was caught in the middle of it all. But God had not forgotten Rachel. At last, she conceived and bore a son, Joseph. And the childless woman, once filled with sorrow, declared, "God has taken away my disgrace." Jacob's family had grown, but his journey was far from over. His past was catching up with him.
Esau's fury still loomed like a storm on the horizon.
And the greatest battle of his life, a battle against God himself, was yet to come. Years passed. Jacob had served Laban faithfully, enduring trickery, rivalry, and hardship. But now, it was time to return home. A home where Esau still waited. Would Esau's anger have cooled after all these years? Or was he still hungry for revenge? Jacob could not be sure. So, he gathered his wives, children, servants, and livestock and set out for Canaan. But fear clung to him like a shadow. Then came the news that froze his blood. A messenger returned, breathless.
"Esau is coming,"
with 400 men. Jacob's heart pounded. This was no welcoming party. This was an army. Panic surged through him. He divided his people into 2 groups. If Esau attacks one camp, at least the other will escape. Then, for the first time in years, Jacob prayed desperately. "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, you told me to return to my homeland, and you would make me prosper. But I am unworthy of all your kindness.
Save me, I beg you, from my brother Esau.
I fear he will come and attack me, and the mothers with their children." But was prayer enough? Fear gnawed at him.
So Jacob devised a plan.
He sent servants ahead with wave after wave of gifts: goats, sheep, camels, cows, donkeys, all meant to appease Esau before he arrived. Tell him these are gifts from his servant Jacob, and that I am coming behind you. Perhaps, by the time Esau reached him, his rage would have softened. But even after sending the gifts, Jacob could not rest. That night, on the banks of the Jabbok River, Jacob sent his family across. But he stayed behind, alone, silent, wrestling with fear, guilt, and uncertainty. And then, a man appeared, suddenly, and he grabbed Jacob. Jacob fought back. They wrestled, grappling, straining, struggling against one another all night long. Jacob's muscles burned, sweat poured down his face, but he refused to surrender. Who was this mysterious opponent? An assassin sent by Esau? A demon in human form? Or something far greater? As dawn approached, the stranger suddenly touched Jacob's hip, and with a single touch, dislocated it. Pain exploded through Jacob's body. His leg buckled. His strength failed. But still, he clung to the stranger. Desperate. Determined.
"Let me go," the man demanded.
Jacob gritted his teeth. His body trembled, his hip throbbed, but he refused. "I will not let you go until you bless me." A pause. Then, the man asked, "What is your name?" Jacob hesitated. For his entire life, his name had defined him, Jacob, the deceiver. He had tricked his brother. He had deceived his father. He had been a man of schemes and cunning. But now, broken and desperate, he spoke his name with honesty. Jacob."
The stranger's voice came like thunder.
"Your name will no longer be Jacob. From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed."
Jacob's breath caught. "Who are you?"
he asked. But the stranger did not answer. Instead, he blessed Jacob. Then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone. Jacob collapsed. His body was different now. His hip was permanently inured. But his soul was different, too. He had wrestled with God himself. And he had survived. Jacob renamed the place
Peniel, the face of God.
Because he had seen God. And lived. The moment of truth, facing Esau. Jacob limped forward, the sun rising behind him. And in the distance, he saw Esau, coming toward him, with 400 men. Jacob's heart pounded. This was it. The moment he had feared for 20 years. His brother, his enemy, was approaching. Jacob took a deep breath. Then he bowed down to the ground. Once. Twice. 7 times. A sign of complete humility. Esau stopped. The air was thick with tension. Then, suddenly, Esau ran toward him. Jacob flinched, expecting the worst. But Esau did not strike him. He embraced him.
Tears filled Esau's eyes.
Tears filled Jacob's. After 20 years of fear, guilt, and distance, forgiveness had found them. Esau, the brother who had once sworn to kill him, was now holding him close. "Who are all these people with you?" Esau asked. Jacob turned to see his wives, his children, his entire household watching in awe. "They are the family God has given me."
Esau laughed, shaking his head.
Jacob gestured toward the gifts he had sent ahead. "Please, take them, my brother." But Esau waved his hand.
"I have enough, my brother."
"Keep them." But Jacob insisted. "Seeing your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably." Esau smiled. "Then let us go home together." And just like that, the war between them was over. Jacob had wrestled with men. He had wrestled with God. And now, at last, he had peace. Please make sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos like these. And check out our last video about Ezekiel and the Valley of Dry Bones. Thank you.